But before I even had kids and was in this situation, I had no idea that this existed. And so many other people were saying the same thing. They didn't know what this term even was. But opening this conversation on Instagram and having literally millions of people reacting to it on either side, it just shows that this conversation needs to be had. Hello, welcome here. My name is Becca, and I just wanted to talk about this topic because it has been on my mind quite a bit recently. I posted a video on Instagram a while back, and it went very viral, and there were a lot of strong reactions to it, and it just made me delve even deeper into it. But it's the whole idea of no support parents, and this is becoming more and more of a common idea and a reality, especially in America. It's like we're very obsessed with being individuals, and we don't want to rely on a community. We don't want the burden of supporting other people, but in return, we don't get any support back. So yeah, I have gathered a lot of thoughts about this because, again, I posted this, it went viral. I had so many different perspectives and people and different situations all commenting on all ends of the spectrum, and so I just feel like I've kind of gathered a lot of that up. I've mixed in my own thoughts and ideas about it all, but I just wanted to put it all in like one big long form content video so then I can kind of get it all out. So a little bit about our situation. We did this all on our own choice. Like, we decided to have children. We have moved 2 countries, 3. We've lived in 3 different countries since having our first child. Our oldest is almost 4. Our youngest is just over 1. And like, this is a heavy time for any parents. Like, having 2 young kids it's just a handful. It's a lot. But that is going to look very different from somebody that has a lot of support around them versus somebody that has nothing. So yeah, we haven't even lived here a year yet. Building up a support network just takes a very long time. And I learned this from our first move. It takes years to develop relationships that you feel comfortable enough to be able to trust them, first of all, with your children. And second, to feel comfortable asking them for help. Because that is what I and a lot of other people struggle with, because we don't want to have to ask for help. We feel like we shouldn't be asking for help because we wanted the children. We had the children. Therefore, it's all our responsibility and we shouldn't be needing anybody else, which is just not true, but it's what our society tells us now. Anyways, right now we're living in Vancouver. It's a very high cost of living place to live, and my husband works his full-time job. That's what brought us here, and I don't work. I stay home with kids. They are with me 100% of the time, because since we are only on a single income, I don't feel like I have not the right, but like I don't feel like it's a good financial decision for me to just hire a babysitter to take a break, or even to hire a babysitter to go on dates with my husband and make sure that our relationship is fine. There's just a lot of things that take a big hit because I don't think that I should be financially irresponsible to go and have that break. And let me just say this very loudly and clearly. I love my children. I love being a mother. I love motherhood. Like, it is the most profound and rewarding thing I've ever done. It is also the hardest thing I've ever done. And there's no getting around that. And it's just a tad bit frustrating because I know that if I did have a little more support, I would love it even more. But I mean, it is what it is. And like I am very open in saying this. This is my fault that I have no support. I moved away from my support network. Do I feel like I had much choice in that? No. Would I change anything about the situation? No. I'm not expecting anybody to move to come to us. Like, I joke about that with my mom all the time, but I'm not expecting her to pick up her life and move to this super high cost of living area that we can barely afford. Like, there's no good solution to this. I'm just saying that it's hard, and it's hard for a lot of people out there. So yeah, I wouldn't trade a single thing about my life, about any of this. I'm just saying that this is not the way that it's meant to be. Okay, we are now going to go into the definition of what a no support or low support parent is. Because again, a lot of people had said that they have never heard this term. I feel like I stumbled upon it only very recently, but it is a very real thing. Maybe I can start with what it is not. I am not sitting here saying I want somebody else to raise my kids. I'm not saying I expect other people's financial contributions. I'm not saying that I don't want to watch my children or anything like that. I'm just saying we are not supposed to be completely consumed by being parents. In any regard, and being a human being, you need a break. And when you have no support, you oftentimes do not get it. And there's just so much like hidden stuff that goes into having a support network that you just don't think about unless you're in the situation. For example, what do you do in an emergency? I wouldn't even know who to call up right now. So like if we had to go to the hospital, and I would just have to bring my kids with me because I would have literally nobody to give them to. Or like on a lot of forms, when you try to sign up for things, they have you put down emergency contacts. I don't have anybody. I have to put my mother who is like 36 hours away from here, or I have to put my husband, even though they very clearly say do not put the same household on, because I just don't have anybody. What am I supposed to do? Another big part of this that really bothers me is the fact, and again, this is my own fault, and so there's a lot of guilt built into this as well, but it's like my kids are not going to have the familial relationships that they should be having. They don't have their cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, anything, because I moved away from it. I was rich with that growing up. I had so many sleepovers at my grandparents' house with all my cousins. It was just a lovely bonding experience, and my kids don't have that. And it is what it is. So we try to make it very rich when we do go once a year to visit our family, but it's just not the same. Like, it's actually a developmentally crucial thing for kids to have other adults and like other kids of other ages in their life. Because right now they just have me and my husband. Like, they're not in preschool, they're not in any sort of classes or anything. So it is literally just us all the time, when it is just a very critical thing that they need to have other adults telling them what they can and can't do, because it's that whole thing of like, if I tell him no, he's not going to listen to me. But if somebody else, another adult, tells him no, he listens right away. That whole phrase of it takes a village to raise a child, it's not a joke, it's not just some silly saying. Like, there's so much truth to that, but unfortunately so many people nowadays are having to or choosing to raise their kids without a village. And there's a lot of consequences to that, both good and bad, but again, this video is kind of tricky to make because there is no solution. A lot of people will say, we'll move back to your support network. That's not an option for us. I won't do it. So I just shared another reel recently about the idea of empathy. And the example that I shared was, if we're both in a car crash and I break my leg and you break 5 bones in your body, that's not going to stop me from saying, that really sucks, I'm so sorry that happened to you. But that doesn't mean that my leg doesn't still hurt. Just because you have it worse doesn't mean I'm not in pain. And that's what a lot of people are lacking online. Actually, a lot of the people that leave rude comments, they either do not have children or they have so much support around them and they have no idea what it's like. And then the other note is just, I know that we do not have the hardest situation out there. I'm not trying to say that. I'm actually quite content and happy with our lives. And I know that some of these situations are just so much harder. And I'm not saying that ours is that hard, but I wrote a list of some examples of what other no or low support families might look like. So if you are a single parent, I cannot imagine. It is so hard to have all of the burden and responsibility on your shoulders 100% of the time. No breaks, nothing. That is a huge amount on you. If you're a military family and you are consistently having to move and leave your support network that you build and work so hard to build, pick it all up and leave it every time your partner gets restationed. And then on top of that, they usually have to leave for extended periods of time. That is so hard. There's a lot of other people that I see talk about how their husbands or partners just work crazy long hours. And then when they do get home from those crazy long hours, they need a lot of time to rest and recuperate and recover. And so all of that burden, I keep saying burden, it's this tricky thing because it's like, I wouldn't change it. I love it, but it is hard. Anyways, when all of the work is put on your shoulders, there's the situations of divorce. Like, nobody expects that when they have a child. They don't have a kid and say, ooh, 3 years from now, I would love to get a divorce. Let's make this way harder. If you are a widow and you have your entire life ripped out from underneath you and you have to go through the grieving process and refiguring out what life is supposed to look like for you, but you also still have to then single parent and you have no support around you, I don't know how you do it. There's a lot of situations where people develop chronic illnesses after they have children. And if you don't have any support around you, you just have to deal with it. There's also the really hard situation of being in an invisible, no support relationship where you're married, you have a partner, but they don't help at all. Like, they are negative help. If anything, they just make your life harder in a lot of ways, and nobody can see that because from the outside looking in, it looks like you have a partner, it looks like you're doing everything together, when in reality, you are behind the scenes working double time to try to make it work. That is so hard. There's a lot of people nowadays that are talking about how they were expecting their parents' help, but because of the economic crisis going on, their parents cannot afford to help because they have to keep working because they can't afford to retire. So then they don't have any energy or time or money to help out in any way. And then there's a lot of the examples where people cut out their family because they're toxic. Even if they're 5 minutes down the road, they can't or won't let them watch their kids even while they go to the bathroom because they cannot be trusted. Or it's just not worth the payoff of whatever toxicity will leach back into their family and the relationship. There's the situations where the grandparents have passed on, and so again, they were expecting that help, but then they're just not there anymore. Or there's when the family is so excited and they ask you to have a baby for years, and then you finally give it to them. That's a weird way of saying that. Then they just suddenly ghost you, and they're not there when you ask for help. And then I know that there's a lot of situations where the family just doesn't approve of your decisions, whether you had a baby too young for them, or they don't like your partner, or whatever. If they don't like it, then they're just not willing to help or support at all. You are left on your own to raise your child all by yourself in complete seclusion. So yeah, to that, all I'm going to say is that life does not happen the way that you expect it to. You never know if you're going to have a child with high needs. You don't know if your partner is going to die, or if you're going to get divorced, or if they cheat on you. There's so many unknowns that are going to happen. Does that mean that nobody should have kids because something could happen? No, children are an integral and important part of our society and our species. I hate the attitude that people have nowadays of, this is the bed you made, you need to lay in it. Because again, things change so drastically and there's nothing that you can do about it. This is our situation and it's hard. I wouldn't trade it, but also what is it going to cost us at the end? Because here's the thing, it's like, if I look at what it would be like if I did have more support, I know that that would be a much easier parenting experience. Honestly, there are some days that I would say are traumatizing. Like having 2 toddlers, it is incredibly hard. And everybody's situation is so incredibly different. And it just blows my mind that some people think that because they did it and they were okay, that does not mean that your children are the same as my children or the next person's children. Some people have kids that do not sleep. They do not get any sleep. And when you experience years of that, that is traumatizing. Some people have children that have super high medical needs, and it's just incredibly anxiety ridden and stressful. And again, like, I don't have that experience, but other people do. And for me to say you should be able to do it yourself and why are you complaining about it? How is that helpful? And then you hear about the other cultures and other countries that value children and they have their society built up so that everybody appreciates them. Everybody's willing to lend a hand. Because like if you take a kid out in certain areas around here, it's like you get glared at if your child is loud or if they're kind of running around a little bit, or, you know, and it's like you are expected to get them to behave and not act like children. And we're just so obsessed with having this individualistic society over here that we have completely isolated ourselves at the cost of our community and our support network. And it's all fine and dandy until you do need help. And then who do you reach out to? And nobody around you is going to help because then you are seen as a burden and it's not okay to ask for help. And it's like that whole idea of asking for rides to the airport. Like, it's a silly example, but I am more than willing to give somebody a ride to the airport. And I would hope that when I needed to go to the airport, somebody would give me a ride instead of having to pay for a $40 Uber. Like, why do we value being so individualistic and having to spend so much money on an outside stranger than to have a community and somebody to help us when we need it? I don't know. Our society is just growing so backwards. And it is that whole idea of if you don't have a support network, then you have to pay for it all. So we're doing it kind of the other way where it's like we're not paying for anything, but it is 100% falling on a lot of mine and then my partner's shoulders. But a lot of people, you have to hire a nanny, you have to pay for daycare, you have to pay out the nose for summer camps when the daycare is not going over the summer. You have to pay for all of your therapy because all of you are so damaged from trying to live this lifestyle. I don't know. I just find it hilarious that there are so many people saying that I'm a little whiny bitch because I am talking about the fact that parenting is hard and that it's an extra level of hard when you don't have any support around you. Another thing in a lot of the comments that was shocking was just the horror stories, because a lot of people were sharing their specific stories. And it's just the ones that are like, oh, I went to the hospital and had a major surgery. And then I had to go back home and I was crawling on my hands and knees to go and take care of my child because my husband had to go back to work. And it's just like, this is some people's reality. This is real trauma. Like, this is traumatizing to have to go to this extreme to give the same level of care and love that you should be giving. I don't know, this is a hard thing to say, but it's like, do you understand where I'm coming from? And there's just so many people that are saying like, yeah, I haven't been on a solo date with my husband in 4 years. And just a lot of comments about people's specific situations, like they've lost their partner. A lot of single parents were yelling at me saying, why are you complaining? I have it harder because I'm a single parent. Like, yes, I will sit here and tell you that your situation is harder, but it's also the thing where it's like, if I want to take a break, because again, I'm a human being that needs a little bit of separation and time to myself. If I want to go to the gym, I have to have my husband watch them. And so that puts all of the burden, again, is the wrong word, but that goes all onto him. And it's like, if he's worked all day, I feel a little bit guilty saying, hey, I would like a little bit of time to myself. We do it anyways, and he doesn't complain about it, but it's still just very tricky. There's so much hidden stuff that goes into this, but it's like those that have support networks versus those that don't, let's just paint two different trajectories here. Let's say it's the exact same situation. It's two parents that have two kids. They are both working full-time jobs. So the no support parents are going to have to pay for daycare. So let's say that's $2,000 a month. The people that do have support, say family around that can watch the kids for even just like 3 days of the week, they only have to pay a little bit in childcare, or if they're very lucky, they don't have to pay anything. Like, I know a lot of people in that situation. The no support parents, every single time either one of their children gets a runny nose, usually the mom is going to have to take her personal sick days to stay at home with the kids because the daycare will not take them. Whereas again, the supported family, the grandparents will take them no problem. The mom can still go to work. She racks up all of her paid time off. The no support family is going to have to pay out the nose for summer camps, for after school care, for all of these different activities and child care because they have to. They have to go to work. Whereas the supportive family, again, they can call up their aunt and be like, oh, is it possible that you could come and watch them for an hour so that I can finish my job and go pick up my son? Again, I'm not saying that I'm expecting my parents to give me all of this financial help, but there are a lot of situations that you hear about where their parents are able to, whether that's in the form of, for example, we have a friend that they live in their parents' house for a while, so then they can save up all of their money so that they can then buy a house on their own. Whereas the no support family that is having to pay so much money to have their children watch so that they can work, there's no way that they can live with their family. There's no way that they can save up enough money to buy a house. And so you can see how they're just completely different trajectories, like exact same situations, but one is nearly impossible and one is thriving. And again, that's just from the monetary aspect. I'm not even talking about the emotional dysregulation that is going on in these families because they have all the support in the world and they have nothing. And there's a lot of comments on there saying that this is a phase and it will pass. And I know this. However, years and years of doing this, it's hard. And it's not like there's no consequences that comes from going through this level of hard for this long. Like, I know a lot of moms break. Like, there are people that I know in my life specifically that have lost their sanity and they just hope to have it back years down the line. And there's just higher divorce rates and unhappier children and parents, and it's sad is what it is. But it is what it is. I don't know. So anyways, the last couple little points I have. How can you find a support network? So if you're like us and you have had to move, it takes a very long time to build a support network. And it's kind of like icky feeling to try to make friends just so you can specifically have somebody to watch your kids. Like, that's a very transactional relationship. That's not gonna work. Like, it's gross. So to build an authentic relationship where, again, you can trust them enough, because there are so many horror stories about people leaving their kids and they're not quite old enough to be able to say what is happening or anything like that. Like, some people just straight up do not trust anybody to watch their kids. For us to get to that point, it would take a very long time for me to be able to leave my children with somebody that I don't know that well. But a lot of people were saying go to churches. As somebody that doesn't like religion, that's gonna be a no. You can try to join homeschooling co-ops. What I do is I go to parks all the time and I'm just constantly trying to meet moms there, because if they're at the parks with their kids all the time, that probably means that we have something in common. I'm always getting moms' phone numbers. I'm trying to go to community events. Like, I'm pretty busy. I'm trying my very best to socialize. like, I want friends for me, but I also want friends for my kids. And so we're just always out trying to build relationships. It's not like we're just sitting at home and being like, oh, we don't have a support network, but we're not trying to get one. Like, I am trying very hard, and I have been for a very long time. And just joining any kind of little classes that might be around, putting your kids in like soccer camps or dance classes or whatever, then that will help you to meet other families around. And then the game completely changes when your kids are at school age. I'm not there yet, but I'm sure that everything is going to look quite different at that point. How can you support people that are in this situation if you're from the outside looking in? First of all, just recognizing the fact that they are doing so much on their own is just a huge thing, because again, a lot of this is invisible. You just don't know until after you've had kids how draining it can be. So just recognizing and saying to them, hey, you're doing an amazing job. And then if you are capable, if you're willing to, if you know them well enough, offer to babysit for 2 hours. I have straight up cried when somebody has offered that, because it's such a rare thing. I've probably had like 3 solid dates with my husband since I've had my first child 4 years ago. Again, it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Or again, if you're just a generous soul, you can invite them over for dinner, or just like hang out at the park with them and talk to them, because sometimes moms don't talk to other human beings for like days. So just being a friend, offering help, seeing where they need help. I don't know. Anyways, from one tired mother to probably many more, I see you, and this is hard. We'll get through it. Take it one day at a time. Yes, it sucks a little bit sometimes, but we're doing it. Anyways, thanks so much for listening to me rant for far too long, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.